The rain had been falling since before sunrise, the kind of rain that did not announce itself with thunder or drama but simply existed, persistent and heavy, soaking into everything it touched. It clung to the air, to the streets, to the tired brick buildings of Brookhaven, a city that had learned to live with being overlooked. Water streamed down rusted fire escapes and pooled in the cracks of broken sidewalks, reflecting distorted versions of streetlights that flickered like they, too, were exhausted. Marcus Hale moved through it all with his head slightly lowered, shoulders tense beneath a thin, worn jacket that had seen better years. The jacket had once belonged to his wife. He had never replaced it. Partly because he could not afford to, partly because it still carried her scent if he imagined hard enough. In his right hand, he carried a small plastic grocery bag, the handle biting into his palm, stretching thin under the weight of a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, and a few cans of soup bought on sale. In his left hand, he held onto the most important thing in his world. Lily's fingers were small and warm, curled trustingly around his own. She was 7 years old, light on her feet, skipping instead of walking, splashing deliberately into shallow puddles and laughing when the water jumped up to kiss her shoes. Her laughter was soft, almost musical, and it cut through the grayness of the morning like a fragile beam of sunlight. She had wide brown eyes that missed nothing, eyes that mirrored her mother's in a way that still made Marcus's chest ache when he noticed it. Marcus watched her constantly, not because he did not trust the world, though that was part of it, but because the world had already taken so much from her. 3 years earlier, cancer had taken her mother with cruel efficiency, leaving behind hospital bills, unanswered questions, and a silence that never truly lifted. Since then, Marcus had learned to live with a constant hum of worry beneath every thought. Every laugh from Lily was precious. Every quiet moment was a reminder of what could be lost. They were almost home, just one more block to go. Marcus could already picture their apartment, the peeling paint near the door, the radiator that hissed like an angry cat, the small kitchen where he would make grilled cheese for dinner because it was cheap and Lily loved it. The thought steadied him. Then the police cruiser slowed beside them. It did not arrive with flashing lights or sirens. It simply rolled up, tires whispering against wet asphalt, the engine idling low and patient. Marcus felt the change immediately, a tightening in his stomach, a familiar knot that formed before his mind could catch up. He stopped walking. Lily took 2 more skipping steps before realizing her father was no longer moving. She turned, confused, rain dripping from the ends of her hair. "Daddy?" she asked, her voice small. Marcus forced a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just stay close." The cruiser stopped fully now. The driver's door opened, and a female officer stepped out. She was tall, with a composed posture that spoke of training and control. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly beneath her cap, rain beating on the brim. Her uniform was immaculate despite the weather, pressed and clean in a way Marcus had learned to associate with authority. The name badge on her chest read, Officer Elena Brooks. "Sir," she said, her voice even, professional, guarded. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" Marcus nodded slowly. He had learned long ago that resistance only made things worse. "Of course." Officer Brooks's gaze flicked briefly to Lily, then back to Marcus's face. She took in his jacket, the grocery bag, the tired lines around his eyes. "Where are you headed?" "Home," Marcus replied. "Just down the block. We were at the store." Her eyes followed the line of his arm to the plastic bag, then returned to his face. "We've had a report of a man matching your description involved in a disturbance a few streets over." Marcus felt frustration flare hot in his chest, familiar and bitter. "That wasn't me," he said carefully. "I've been with my daughter the whole time." Officer Brooks studied him in silence. The rain filled the space between them. Her gaze lingered on the faded tattoo peeking out from beneath the cuff of his jacket sleeve. Marcus noticed her attention shift, though she said nothing yet. "I need you to place the bag on the ground," she said. Lily squeezed his hand harder. "Daddy, what's happening?" Marcus knelt slightly so he was closer to her level, rain soaking into his knees. "Nothing, baby. Just a misunderstanding." He set the grocery bag down gently, as if any sudden movement might shatter the moment. Then he stood up straight, hands visible at his sides, shoulders tight. "I'm going to need you to turn around," Officer Brooks said. Marcus hesitated. Only for a moment. "Is that really necessary?" Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Sir, please comply." Slowly, deliberately, Marcus turned around. He felt the cold metal of the handcuffs close around his wrists, the click sharp and final. The sound echoed louder in his mind than it did on the street. Lily gasped. "No!" she cried, breaking free and running toward him. "Sweetheart, stop," Marcus said urgently, fear slicing through his chest. "It's okay. Daddy's okay." Officer Brooks moved quickly, catching Lily before she reached him. She crouched, holding the child gently but firmly. "Hey," she said, her voice softening despite herself. "It's all right. Your dad isn't in trouble. We're just checking something." But the words rang hollow. Marcus stood there in the rain, hands cuffed behind his back, heart pounding, shame and anger mixing in a way he had never fully learned to control. He hated how familiar this felt. Hated how his daughter had to see it. Another cruiser arrived moments later, lights reflecting off the wet pavement. An older officer stepped out, glancing around with practiced efficiency. "What have we got?" "Possible match to a suspect," Brooks replied. "I'm verifying." She guided Marcus toward the hood of the car. As she did, his jacket sleeve rode up, exposing the tattoo on his left arm fully. It was not flashy or threatening. It was simple, intimate. A pair of small wings, delicate in their design, encircling a name etched in careful script, Emma. Beneath it, a date. Officer Brooks stopped. Her gaze locked onto the tattoo, her breath catching as if the air had been knocked from her lungs. For a moment, everything else seemed to disappear, the rain, the sirens, the city. Her eyes traced the letters slowly, reverently. "Where did you get that?" she asked. Marcus turned his head slightly, confused. "What?" "The tattoo," she said, stepping closer. Her hand hovered inches from his arm without touching it. Her voice no longer held the sharp edge of authority. "Where did you get it?" Marcus frowned. "It's my wife's name," he said. "She passed away." The older officer noticed the shift immediately. "Brooks." She swallowed hard. What was her full name? "Emma Hale," Marcus said. "Why?" Her face drained of color. Memories crashed into her with merciless clarity. A hospital room that smelled of antiseptic, a woman with tired eyes squeezing her hand and smiling even as machines beeped steadily around them, talking about the man she loved and the baby she was leaving behind. "No," Brooks whispered. Marcus heard it. "What?" She took a shaky breath. "I knew her." The words struck him harder than the cuffs ever could. "You knew Emma." Officer Brooks nodded slowly, tears threatening to spill despite her discipline. "She was my sister." The rain continued to fall, but the world had shifted. Something irrevocable had changed on that cracked sidewalk. Without another word, Brooks reached for the handcuffs and unlocked them. The metal fell away, clattering softly against the pavement. "My sister," Marcus repeated, rubbing his wrists. "I should have recognized it sooner," she said. "She talked about you. About Lily. About how hard you worked." Lily stepped closer, clutching Marcus's jacket. Brooks knelt in front of her, eyes full. "She looks just like her," Brooks whispered. Marcus felt his chest tighten painfully. "I'm sorry," Brooks said. "For today. For everything." Marcus looked down at Lily, then back at Brooks. "What matters," he said quietly, "is what happens next." The rain began to ease, the clouds thinning just enough to let a pale light touch the street. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something stir beneath the weight of survival. Not relief. Not peace. But the faint, dangerous beginning of Chan. The morning sunlight filtered through the blinds in thin, hesitant lines, casting stripes of gold across the small living room. Marcus Hale stirred awake, muscles stiff, the remnants of yesterday's storm still clinging to his bones. For a moment, he thought he was still trapped in a nightmare, the handcuffs, the rain, the misunderstanding, but then the quiet of the house reminded him that at least, for now, he was safe. He rubbed his eyes and noticed the officer sitting across the room, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. She looked almost human in the soft morning light, no longer the imposing authority figure from the night before, but still carrying the weight of secrets, of truths she hadn't yet shared. "Morning," she said quietly. "Sleep well." Marcus forced a small smile. "As well as I can, I guess. After everything." She nodded, setting her coffee down. "You're going to need it. Today, the story starts to make sense, but it won't be easy. There are people who would rather this truth stayed buried." Marcus's stomach tightened. He had already begun to realize that this wasn't just about mistaken identity or a simple misunderstanding. There were layers of deception, of danger, hidden beneath the surface of his ordinary life. "Tell me," he said. "I need to know everything." The officer hesitated, then leaned back. "Years ago, there was a case I worked, an investigation into a series of high-profile thefts and fraud. The wrong leads, the wrong evidence, it all pointed to you. And I followed it without question. But the truth, the real people behind it were someone else entirely. Someone who knew how to cover their tracks perfectly." Marcus listened intently, the weight of her words settling heavily on his chest. He remembered the years of suspicion, the late-night knocks at the door that never came, the shadow of fear hanging over him and his daughter. All of it had been unnecessary, and yet unavoidable, because someone else had deliberately manipulated the world to make him a target. "So, all those years," Marcus whispered, voice tight. "I was living under suspicion for crimes I didn't commit." "Yes," she said simply. "But it's more complicated than that. That tattoo, it's more than a mark. It identifies you to them. They've been watching. And now, Marcus, you need to understand that you and your daughter are not just victims of a misunderstanding, you're targets." Marcus felt a chill run through him. The ordinary fear of a single father protecting his child had grown into a dangerous, almost suffocating tension. Every decision he had made to ensure their safety suddenly felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap under pressure. "Targets," he repeated, incredulity and dread mixing in his voice. "Who? Why?" "They're part of a network," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper, as if speaking louder might call them into the room. "A group that thrives on manipulation, control, and covering their tracks. They've been careful, meticulous. And now, with the events that unfolded yesterday," she trailed off. Marcus leaned forward, heart pounding. "Yesterday." "Yes," she said, her gaze steady. "The wrong arrest, the recognition of the tattoo, it triggered something. They realized that someone else knows. Someone who shouldn't." For the first time in a long while, Marcus felt the full magnitude of the danger. This wasn't about him alone, his daughter's safety was entwined with every decision he had to make. He thought of her, her laughter, her small hands, the way she clung to him when storms passed or nightmares came. He couldn't let them be used as leverage. "I need to protect her," he said firmly, voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Whatever it takes." The officer nodded approvingly. "Good. That determination is what will keep you alive. But it won't be easy. You're going to have to fight smart, stay ahead of them, and trust very few people. Including me. For now, I'm your ally, but things may change." Marcus exhaled slowly, absorbing her words. "I understand, but I need to know where to start." She handed him a small, encrypted folder. "This is the beginning. Names, locations, contacts. Information we've gathered over the years that proves your innocence, and may help you dismantle the network before they can strike. But you need to be careful. They're dangerous, and they've been watching every move you made in the past. Every choice." He opened the folder, scanning the contents quickly. His pulse quickened with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The documents, photographs, and notes painted a terrifying picture of people who were ruthless, patient, and extraordinarily clever. It was the kind of intelligence that could topple lives in an instant. And now, it seemed, Marcus's life, and the life of his daughter, was at the center of it all. "Where do we go from here?" Marcus asked. She hesitated, then spoke with a firmness that left no room for debate. "First, you need to disappear. For the next 48 hours, no one can know where you are. Change your routines, move quietly, and keep your daughter close. After that, we begin taking the fight to them. And Marcus," she paused, looking him straight in the eyes, "this isn't just about survival. It's about reclaiming your life." Marcus nodded. The adrenaline surged, replacing fear with focus. He wasn't just a victim anymore, he was a man with purpose, a father who would stop at nothing to ensure his child's safety and confront the forces that had shadowed his life. As he prepared to leave the safety of the secluded house, Marcus's mind replayed every memory, every choice that had led him here. The arguments with neighbors, the suspicious looks from strangers, the fear that had kept him awake at night, all of it had been a precursor, a warning of the storm that was finally here. The officer handed him a small, black duffel bag. "Take what you need for the next 2 days. Travel light, but keep essentials, documents, identification, money, supplies. And Marcus," she added softly, "trust your instincts. They're sharper than you think. Outside, the morning drizzle had begun to fade, leaving behind a city washed clean but still brimming with hidden dangers. Marcus clutched the bag tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He would protect his daughter, uncover the truth, and confront the shadows that had haunted his life. He glanced back at the house one last time. The officer watched him, a silent sentinel in the morning light, and for a fleeting moment, Marcus felt the fragile bond of trust that had begun to form between them. Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the streets, ready to embrace the uncertainty of the world that awaited. Every step he took carried him further from the safety of yesterday and closer to a future he couldn't yet see. But one thing was certain, Marcus Hale would not be broken. He would fight. And no matter what storms lay ahead, he would do so for the child who had made him a man, a protector, and a force to be reckoned with. The city breathed around him, indifferent and sprawling, yet it held secrets Marcus was now determined to uncover. Somewhere in its alleys, offices, and hidden corners, the network that had cast a shadow over his life still thrived. But Marcus was no longer a man hiding in fear, he was a father, armed with knowledge, courage, and the unyielding will to reclaim his life and ensure that justice, long delayed, would finally prevail.